What is up, y'all? So we're gonna do a little detour from the C10 project here. We're waiting on some parts to come in, and the transmission is still at the shop. The guy had a bunch of rush vehicles that came in, and I told him, hey man, this isn't my daily driver, so there's really no rush. The guy's been super good to me, so I just, you know, let him get his quick money in and out, and we'll get mine when we get it. So jump into another project. When I had the system put in the mini truck, we had to delete the washer bottle and then the storage for the jack. So I'll take you guys along to see what I'm talking about. So when the system was put in, underneath this seat is the new sub, but before that there was a bracket which mounted this washer bottle and then the jack. So the jack I no longer use just because we don't really need it. I'm pretty local with this truck, so if something happens, I can make a quick phone call and have a jack. To be honest with you, we could probably pick up the side of it and put a block underneath it. So the jack is no longer needed, but I would like to have the sprayers for my washer bottle there hooked back up. So the plugs are still inside the cab. I had great intentions on always putting this back, and today just is kind of one of those chill weekends that we're gonna do just that. We're gonna get it fixed. So I've got the other bracket that I drilled the spot welds out to make the area free. So this is what we were left with. So we were left with this bracket right here that this kind of slides into, and then the floor went up at an angle. So the bottle would have stayed straight, and this is the way it was on the floor. So doing some looking around, I think the only thing I'm really gonna need off of this is just this piece right here. I kind of looked at the frame. I was gonna weld this back on, and every which way it doesn't really lay right. I was gonna cut the back off, but then you put the bottle at an angle. So my thought is there's two spot welds right here. I'm gonna drill these two spot welds out, and I'm gonna use just this bracket, and then we come back over here. We've got a location right here that we can make a bracket for and get this tucked in just like so. And then you could pop the top on it if you need to fill it remotely, or if you want to pull it out of there, I'll have enough room that you can pop it up and bring it out and then fill it and then snap it back into the holder. And then that kind of tucks everything back where the battery is and the train horns, and everything sits back kind of remote. And then maybe one of these days we're gonna make a block off plate here to kind of conceal the majority of this without being super exposed. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into getting this bracket free from this whole assembly here. All we want to do is drill these spot welds out. I believe I have just that. So let me dig that out. Let's roll this intro and we'll get to it. So at some point I lost my spot weld driller for the smaller spot welds. This is kind of what it looks like. It's pretty much just a chuck style bit that has a centering bit made into it, and then this right here is going to actually drill the spot weld itself. It looks almost identical to this, just a lot smaller. So you're only going to drill out what material you need, and so you're not tearing this whole piece up. So if you don't have a spot weld bit, you can easily just identify the spot weld, which we can see right here and right here. What I like to do is center punch those. And again, you're drilling a weld, so be mindful that it's not gonna just rip right through. So we get those pretty centered, and then we're just gonna use a bit that's pretty large enough. This one's actually a little too big, but that'll end up eating up the whole spot without chewing up too much extra metal. All we want to do is just break this free. We don't want to chew a whole complete spot out. So this bit right here looks like it's going to be perfect. It looks like it's in halfway decent shape. Actually, let's switch. Let's grab this one. Yep, this one seems a little better. So let me get this chucked up and see if we can't drill this spot weld out here. Well, after a little persuasion, we got the bracket separated from the main bracket. So if you can see, I had a couple issues with some of my bits. I ended up switching over to a step bit, and it drilled that about perfect. And then instead of chewing it I didn't want to drill this too much because I was getting ready to get into the next step. I just used a chisel and got behind there. So now I've still got smaller holes. I don't have to put a big bolt through here to fix this. So what my idea is, is I wanted to catch both the top and bottom hole. So if I just did a center, this thing would want to twist because the tank is kind of oblong. So I wanted to grab 2 of these holes and then make a bracket that came up and over, and then there's a bolt that comes up through the bottom of the kind of pretty much the frame there. Use one of those bolts to hold my bracket, and then these 2 I'm just gonna end up probably tack welding to them, because after I was thinking about putting bolts through here, then the tank won't slide on there properly. Otherwise I could countersink these. I could do that, which I may have some around. Just depends on how froggy I feel like getting. So there's multiple options on what I can do here. Just kind of see what I got laying around the shop. Don't feel like going to Ace Hardware, so let me see what I got and see what we can come up with. Alright, so we found this piece of scrap metal. So I know it's kind of off, but this is literally all the metal I've got. Again, don't feel like going to the store. So what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to break this right here. I'm going to break it here, drill a hole in it so it's got a 90 degree, and then I'm going to clean this all up, and then I'm going to spot weld wherever this looks good. I'm going to spot weld this here to there, and then I'll get some white paint on it, and that should be our bracket. Alright, so we got that cleaned up, got the edges cleaned up so there's no burrs on it, and then got a brake put in here. I don't have my brake tools here, so I just literally used a hitch receiver and just a square end, and then just kind of feed it around. So like now I can kind of square it up from there, but at least it was hitting flat, and then this will get a hole popped in that. Make sure that's kind of where it needs to be. Yeah, anyways, so pop a hole in that. We'll get this welded just like so. So we got the steel cleaned up here, so we got good contact there. That's still drilled out, so I'm not really concerned about that. But I do want to get the hole popped in this real quick and see where it kind of lands. And then if this has got to be shorter, higher on this so it fits right. I'm thinking this is like the perfect spot here, but let's get a hole popped in here first. All right, we got our bracket, so it's going to end up going right here. So we'll pull this socket out like so. Socket, what am I saying, bolt. Get this pop back in. So we went ahead and put our bracket on our tank like so. We made a mark where this is going to sit and still be able to get it. Let's move over. This is exactly where it's going to sit. So I can still pull this bottle off this bracket at that mark there, which is going to be right about there. So I obviously cleaned the wrong side, so I'm going to go ahead and cut this and get this cleaned up, and then we'll weld our little bracket like so. right about there. And then that will give us just enough to where it'll slide off the wedge there and can be tucked back. And then all we'll have to do is, when we go to fill this, we'll pop it up. It'll actually be right here. Pop it up, pull it out just a little bit, fill it, bring it back in, pop it into place. So we got our OSHA approved Hey Dudes for welding. Go ahead and get our ground on there. Got the welder set for thin gauge metal so we don't blow this apart. I think I'm just gonna give her a little tack. Tack, tack, tack-a-roo. Should be good here. That one came out alright. That one kind of looks like crap. Oh well, we're gonna knock it down anyways. It got hot on the backside. That's all that matters. Oh yeah, it's on there. Alright, I'm gonna beat that down, close our gap up. Mucho better. Alright, hit that with a grinder, clean that up so our tank still fits on there. And I think we got ourselves a bracket. Alright, so we threw some paint on this, letting it dry. Hopefully we ain't got to wait too long. We got the old fast drying. So what we're gonna have to do is, for the inside, if anybody has ever already done this or is interested in doing this, so we'll move our sub box out of the way here, and then we're gonna have where our power wire kick through. So this would have been the plug for the sprayer. So what we're gonna end up doing on this, they tied the grounds in. We're just gonna cut this plug, extend it, and then from there, our hose is right here as well. I think I've got some hose around here. I'm gonna cut this and run this outside through the plug here. So working on the notion here of still not trying to go to the hardware store, I found some wire that I had left over that we're gonna end up, it's not green, the other one was like green and brown. So I already know. We're just gonna use our colored as our power and our black is our ground. So to make this a halfway clean build here, or I won't say build, but project, we're gonna chuck these up. We're gonna hold the other end. I'm gonna extend these. Just like so. So now we have a nice little rope here. This should be plenty for what we're gonna need. So we can go ahead and put the ends on both of these. And what I like to do is bring ourselves over here where it ends. Let's just take a pair of snips. Our terminals, our end is actually going to be right about here. So take a piece of shrink, cut it down just about in half. Go ahead and slide that over this like so. If you don't have a heat gun, cigarette lighter works just fine. You guys are on an angle here. Let's try and fix you guys here. So Get that shrunk down like so. And that'll hold our twist into place, so it's not going to want to undo for us. And then we will unchuck the drill side. Do the same thing. Throw this on here. Now on this one, we may just cut this and use this piece to do our whole piece there. So we'll save that one. But on this end, we're going to go ahead and put our plug on this end. So unfortunately, I think we have reached the part where I'm going to be out of supplies. So I had everything I needed here. Sorry, just taking my bracket off here. Everything I needed except for the line that goes to the sprayer. So I'm gonna get everything installed, finished wired, get my bracket put in, and then we're gonna have to go to Ace. But I was so close. Almost there. So at least let's get this mounted. Get this put in, the wiring shoved through, and then all we'll have to do is get a piece of hose with a small barb, and that'll finish this off. So there's our bracket. Our tank is gonna come in, spline right in like so, just like that. Perfectly aligned. And then we'll climb underneath there. That actually looks pretty good, if I don't say so myself. We'll climb underneath here. We'll take our wiring like so. And then we're gonna have to go through that little grommet. Maybe you can see it. Okay, right there. There's a grommet right there. Gonna have to pop through that. That comes out into the floorboard. And then what we'll all have to do is run our hose through there when we're done and tie it into the back of this pump. And just like that, a quick trip to Ace Hardware, we got ourselves some 3-foot of hose and a little barb. We got the hose into our fitting here, and then the connection is right underneath here. Tank is mounted, hose and power wire run up along the frame rail. We went ahead and got some water just put in here just to make sure it works. But when you go to fill this, all you need to do is just twist it, pop it out of the bracket, drop it down, fill it, reach back in, pop it in, snap it down, good to go. And then we reach across, we pull our sprayer. We are all set. So again, a problem I created myself just to have a little bit of sound inside the truck, but at the end of the day, wasn't a super involved project, I should say. All in all, I've probably got maybe an hour and a half. That's with making the bracket, welding it, doing the wiring, and having to run to Ace Hardware. So I would, if you want to put a sub in your truck, I would recommend doing that. I'm sure there's a million different ways to put this, but for me, it looks clean, it's accessible, and when you look underneath there, it doesn't look too out of place. It almost looks like it belongs there. So that is it. That is all. We're on to the next. We'll see you next time.